Such a happy sound. You know, the ukulele is one of those instruments. It's just hard to be in a bad mood when you hear it, or especially when you play it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hello, and welcome to the program. My name is Mr. Heyman, once again proving that it's never too late to be who you might have been. The topic of this episode, plate tectonics and volcanoes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to shine the light of truth on the topic of earth science. Are you interested yet? So, for generations, for thousands of years of human existence, people, human beings, have had theories, ideas, stories, sometimes songs about this earth and how this earth came to be. We're going to take a look at plate tectonics, but first we're going to take a look at an egg. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, an egg. It's covered by a thin shell. You know what happens if you drop it or you biff it too hard? It breaks open. I've already done that to this one. Can you see? See those cracks? So scientists in geology, the study of the earth, tell us that the earth is also covered by a thin crust. They actually call it the crust. Now, it's not so thin like this is thin, right? But the Earth's crust is thin relative to the size of the Earth. Go with me. The crust is broken into major chunks. They call these chunks plates. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, tectonic plates. And the truth of these plates is that they seem to move around. Now, these pieces of shell are floating on, you know, a sea of egg yolk and egg goo. Plates of the earth are not floating around on egg yolk and egg goo. They're floating around on, ladies and gentlemen, magma, liquid rock, superheated, super hot rock that's in liquid form. So just like the shells of an egg would move over top of the gooey center, so do the plates of the earth move around. Now, they don't move very fast. It's not like a roller coaster, right? They barely move. Sometimes they move towards each other. Where the crack is, the crack will move towards each other. That's called a convergent boundary. And usually when that happens, one will go underneath of the other. This is what they call subduction, right? And this is a place there that you would find mountain ranges on Earth. For example, the Cascade Mountains of Washington State and Northern Oregon, or the Andes Mountains in South America. Sometimes the plates move away from each other. When they do that, they create a gap or a vent where this magma can rise to the surface and create new Earth. This is called a divergent boundary. Sometimes the boundaries, are you with me? Sometimes the boundaries, right where they meet, as in the example of the North American boundary and the Pacific boundary, which is where we live in California, I got to do this. They move this way against each other, okay? They rub against each other. That's called a transform boundary. And what happens when they move is they get stuck. And sometimes they can be stuck for like a long time, right? And then suddenly they move. And when that happens, that's right, that's called an earthquake. And they call California the land of earthquakes. If you follow the west coast of California, which is where you live, and you start going north, and you go all the way to Alaska, and then you go all the way over to Japan, and you go all the way down past the Philippines, and you go all the way down to, well, New Zealand, more or less. There is an area of volcanic activity which researchers call, which Johnny Cash called, the Ring of Fire. That's right, the Ring of Fire. And along that ring, so to speak, lots of volcanic activity. But right in the center of that ring, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, is what they call a hot spot. A hot spot. We're going to turn our attention today to that hot spot, that location of that hot spot. We know it as Hawaii, right? And trust me, by the way, this is an old-time print of Waikiki Beach. And in the distance, behind the longboard surfer and the outrigger, you can see the outline of Diamond Head, which is there. It's on Oahu today. It's a dormant volcano. We're going to turn our attention to that hot spot and to how it is that volcanic activity happened to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where there are no boundaries biffing and sliding and all of this. We've spared no expense. We brought in an expert. So I'm going to turn this over to my cub reporter, Johnny Olson, who is going to introduce you to today's guest. Hang on. It's going to be a wild ride. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Olson, cub reporter here, reporting to you live from the Tiki Teepee Tapa Grill on Oahu's fabled North Shore. Ladies and gentlemen, Kaboom News is absolutely delighted, and I personally am thrilled to welcome a distinguished member of the Hawaiian royal family to the program. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are welcoming Duke Kamehameha, a descendant of the founder of the Kingdom of Hawaii, Kamehameha the Great. Duke, or Mr. Kamehameha, Your Excellency, can I call you Duke?
Well, just to clarify for the record,
Yes.
it's actually my uncle, my great uncle on my mom's side. It's like her fifth cousin, Calabash cousin on her dad's side. His name was actually Bulaia. And he wasn't exactly royal or part of the royal family. He was actually a custodian in the Iolani Palace. So he wasn't royal, but he knew a lot of royally people. And yeah, so and his accounts are easily fifth-hand accounts. So it's as accurate as you can be and easily substantiated. So just for the record.
Well, thank you for that clarification. You know, great journalism is distinguished from all others by authenticity. You've really the fifth cousin twice removed. All right, wonderful. Well, welcome to the program. We're really happy to have you.
Great to be here.
We've discovered that you're something of an ethnobiologist, musicologist, author, philosopher, and of course a grifting beachcomber who once was the Western Pacific Rim Mumbly Pig champion. Congratulations on that. Can you tell us a little bit about your life, your family, you know, anything you'd like to share before we go on with the program?
Well, you know, I was actually born on the northern part of the southern tip of the western section of Oahu. And
Right.
yeah, so that kind of makes me an expert.
Born and raised, correct? Born and raised.
Correct.
Island, your home today. Well, that's fantastic. In addition to these other accomplishments, we understand that you are a foremost expert, and this is one of the reasons that we invited you on the program, is your expert command of Hawaiian culture, folk songs, etc. You're well versed in the lore and the legends of the islands. Can you tell us a quick tale that would give us insight into the origins, a traditional view of the origins of the Hawaiian Islands?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I use the term expert very loosely, so I think I can fall under that umbrella. The oral traditions, or the mo'olelo is what we call them, of passing down stories and traditions and legends, has it that the creation of Hawaii was actually from a demigod named Maui. And not the Maui you see on Disney, but the actual Maui. So Maui had a bunch of brothers, and what happened was they would not take him fishing. Okay, so one day he tricked him to take him fishing. Now he had a fish hook. It's called a manaya kalani. It's a magic fish hook. So as they were paddling out in their canoe, he dropped the fish hook, and it had a little feather on it from an alai bird, which is the Hina, the goddess of the moon. It's her pet. So he had this alai feather, and it hooked to the bottom of the seafloor, and he started pulling up the seafloor. And he told his brothers not to turn around, and if they did, the line would snap. And he's pulling up these islands. One by one, they start coming up, and he pulls up the entire Hawaiian archipelago. And then one of his brothers turns around, and the line snaps. But by then, the Hawaiian Islands were there. And that is the story I got from my uncle Bulaia.
Well,
yeah,
that's a fantastic story. Almost as fantastic as this bit. It's a legend, really, a legendary story about you. And our sources say that you, at one time, you body surfed down the southern slope of Mount Kilauea during a massive eruption, the massive eruption of 1924. What can you tell us about that adventure?
Again, I'd like to clarify some of the details just for journalistic integrity.
Yes.
I was actually not it didn't start off as body surfing. I was more cruising down on my Schwinn Stingray, and the tires popped on the lava because there's two types of lava, the and the Pahoehoe, and the was really rugged on my tires. It popped. I fell off my Schwinn, and I ended up body surfing. Hold that, body tumbling
Yeah.
down the side of Kilauea, and I ended up in one of these massive lava tubes.
Does this look familiar to you?
That's the one.
That's the one. That's what our researchers told us. So that,
I got shot out to sea about a quarter mile.
oh my goodness. In something that, let's see, the lava tube being formed by cooling lava. It's sort of like ice that forms on the top of a frozen river, but inside is where the river continues to flow. And you were shot out, so to speak, you were shot out into the Pacific Ocean. Well, we actually tracked down that spot.
Yeah.
That is actually a plume of a molten lava splashing down into the Pacific Ocean. And of course, when that happens, that lava instantly cools and forms rock, which means that it makes the island even bigger. What was that like?
It's pretty hot and then pretty cold.
And,
Yeah.
and then probably pretty wet too, huh?
Yeah, pretty wet. Water
Yeah.
was pretty wet.
Well, speaking of volcanic activity, we know that geologists refer to the Hawaiian Islands as the world's most famous hotspot. Now, they mean something specific by the term hotspot. But what are the stories from the proud oral tradition of generations of Polynesian people have to say about this?
Hotspot. The Wi-Fi is pretty spectacular. I mean, that's a definite hotspot. I mean, you don't even need a device, and you're catching Wi-Fi. Um, but another hotspot is Auntie Momilani's Cafe. Wednesday nights, Uncle Kimo's on the grill. You can't miss out. Live music. Everybody comes out, and it's just an amazing time. But if you catch it on Monday nights, you're just gonna have a great time. It's just amazing.
Ulaia, can I just give you an idea of what the geologists are telling us about when they mention hotspots?
Oh, oh, you mean that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the idea. The Pacific plate is shown by this kind of darker blue, and the water of the Pacific Ocean is shown by the lighter blue. And this is solid, dense rock, which is below the plate. And this is all geologic theory. And this is what they call a magma plume. It's a fixed hotspot. And what it does is, through incredible forces of stress and heat and pressure, et cetera, through a crack in this Pacific plate, it has formed, well, a plume that takes the lava to the top. And this whole process has formed the islands of Hawaii. We've got Kauai as the oldest island. Now, see, the theory is that the plates keep moving because they're not stationary. They float on that sea of magma. So as they're moving in this direction, in turn, there's your island right there. They have been formed, and the baby, the youngest of the Hawaiian Islands, of course, is the Grand Island of Hawaii. That's kind of what, nothing in the oral traditions about that, huh?
Hmm. A little. I think it was mentioned.
Well, one final question. Experts today disagree on the actual origins of Hawaii, right? And can you tell us definitively how this lush tropical paradise came to be, surrounded by, as it is, thousands and thousands of miles of open ocean?
Lucky, I guess.
Okay, good answer. Hey, say, in this day of instant information, our viewers tell us that seeing is believing. Now, we understand that for the first time anywhere, as a Kaboom News exclusive, you'll be sharing some archival newsreel footage on our program, footage that definitively reveals the truth of Hawaiian's origin. Now, we've talked about theories, we've talked about folk tales. Apparently, you have honest to goodness proof. How did you come into this vital piece of history?
Um, Home movies, Betamax, home movies.
Okay, well, I've got to talk to our staff about research standards, I know that they've scoured the earth to get this. We appreciate you being on the show, and we want to say, ladies and gentlemen of science, I know that you're as anxious as I am to see this footage. And once and for all, we're going to answer this question: how did Hawaii come to be? I think this is going to convince you. I'm certain that years from now, when you're talking to your grandchildren, you're going to remember this day, remember where you were, and you're going to remember who you're with. I know I'm going to remember who I was with when you first saw I Lava You.
A long, long time ago, there was a volcano living all alone in the middle of the sea. He sat high above his bay, watching all the couples play, and wishing that he had someone too. And from his lava came this song of hope that he sang out loud every day for years and for years. I have a dream I hope will come true. You're here with me, and I am here with you. I wish that the earth, sea, and sky up above will send me someone to love her. Years of singing all alone turned his lava into stone, until he was on the brink of extinction. But little did he know that living in the sea below, another volcano was listening to his song. Every day she heard his tune, her lava grew and grew, because she believed his song was meant for her. Now she was so ready to meet him above the sea, as he sang his song of hope for the last time. I have a dream I hope will come true. You're here with me, and I am here with you. I wish that the earth, sea, and sky up above will send me someone to love her. Rising from the sea below stood a lovely volcano, looking all around, but she could not see him. He tried to sing to let her know that she was not there alone, but with no lava his song was all gone. He filled the sea with his tears, watched his dreams disappear, as she remembered what his song had meant to her.
I have a dream I hope will come true, that you'll be here with me, and I am here with you. I wish that the earth, sea, and sky up above will send me someone to love her.
Oh, they were so happy to finally meet above the sea. All together now, their lava grew and grew and grew. No longer are they alone, with Aloha as their new home. And when you go and visit, this is what they sing.
I think I'm going to need at least a moment, maybe 2 moments to process what I just saw. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that your takeaway from this program will be that this earth, this planet, this home that we share is a precious, precious place. And whatever theory you adhere to, whatever theory you believe in, whatever theory makes sense to you as to how we got where we are right now, we are where we are right now. And I want to suggest that we need each other. So, as we roll credits on this episode of Kaboom News, we're going to pay tribute to an amazing Hawaiian entertainer, maybe the most famous Hawaiian entertainer of all times. He spreads with every phrase, almost with every syllable, certainly with every note that he plays, a spirit of aloha. So, whatever else you take from this episode, take that, enjoy it until we see each other again. See ya.
Tiny bubbles and wine make me happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles make me warm all over with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time. So here's to the golden moon, and here's to the silver sea, and mostly here's a toast to you and me. Tiny bubbles and the wine, make me happy, make me feel fine, tiny bubbles, make me warm all